You know what else? You know what else has to happen? A new dev needs to come out.
New dev out here
Yes,
releasing
sir.
open source tools. Let's talk about this. So, ex-Riot devs Believer seeks a better way to develop video games with open source tool Friendshipper. CTO Landon McDowell tells us why the new studio is sharing some of the technology behind its debut game. It's coming again from James Batchelor over at GamesIndustry.biz. We're 3 for 3 right now in games industry, so hey.
We really are. I mean, to be honest though, because there's State of Play recently happened, and then we got Summer Games Fest coming out next week. There's not a whole lot of articles for us to really discuss.
Yeah.
Other than everybody's hyping up what's coming next, you know?
Yeah. I mean, hey, they're out here cracking the code, dude. Love GamesIndustry.biz.
Really
So, the Believer company has today released its internal development tool Friendshipper as an open source project. The studio is founded by veterans from Riot Games and is currently working on a next generation open world multiplayer game. Friendshipper is a development tool that the team has been using to improve how efficiently they build this game, such as faster implementations of bug fixes during playtests. CTO Landon McDowell tells GamesIndustry.biz the aim of Friendshipper is to very quickly make changes to the code, quickly do builds, and then get changes in those builds out to ourselves as well as testers. As for why the studio is sharing the technology with other developers, McDowell puts it down to one simple belief: there's just a better way to develop video games. We've not had the most fantastic experiences throughout our careers. One of the reasons why we came here is that we knew that we wanted to invest, wanted to figure out a better way of doing this for a multitude of reasons, he explains. We want to be able to play test more frequently. We want to be able to do as best we can, avoid crunch and some of the more problematic aspects of game development. And we believe that the game development process at its core is part of that. Since forming last year, the Believer company has grown to 65 people. Of those, McDowell says only 3, he said, quote, 3-ish, to be completely accurate, are dedicated to development of Friendshipper. Although the CTO notes that other members of the team do collaborate on this project at times. As such, he emphasizes that Friendshipper in its current state is just one potential solution to some of the problems game developers face. We don't have so much hubris that we think we have all the answers. We have ideas about things we want to do differently and things we want to improve, but there's an entire industry of game developers that have similar experiences and have other ideas about ways to do that. The best thing that we can do is to take a shot at what we think are fantastic development tools that are going to solve all sorts of problems in game development. But we want to quickly share that out and start building a community around these tools and ideas so that we can learn and grow from other people's experiences in the industry. He adds that Friendshipper is also designed to help make developer development easier because the act of making games should be a joyous one. We believe that players benefit from developers having a great experience developing games. So we want to share these tools and practices and build a community around them because we feel like players as a whole will benefit from the industry adopting development methodologies and practices. Our conversation with McDowell also touched on other ways in which developers can make games faster, better, and cheaper, something that GamesIndustry.biz will explore in more depth during a GI Sprint editorial special later this month in June. Expect more from Games Industry's chat with McDowell during their sprint. They previously spoke to Believer company's CEO Michael Chow, and a chief product officer Stephen Snow shortly after the new studio secured $55 million in seed funding. And they had the original article linked in the article, which you can read in the description below. Crazy how that works. Set that up for you guys, Just click on it, read it, see the links, see the articles. This thing, Mike, what do you think about we're out here shipping crazy tools that could potentially streamline processes and make things easier for other developers? What do we think, Mike?
I think this is pretty good. This I'm gonna kind of go sidetracked in a way, but I want to relate it into the gaming industry. So we spoke earlier in group chat about C++ languages and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of a meme video where the guys like it shows the girl and she's like, if you want to find a girl, it's like, boys, if you want to find a girl, and then he goes, yeah, no thanks, and then he just starts coding.
Programming.
Yeah. And I was telling you, I was like, from my understanding with programming, I'm sure it's the same thing with game development because that's really programming. There are so many different languages that you could use, and there's not one individual best language to use. There's just different eras of a language to use. Is that correct? I mean, you're more into that than I am.
I mean, yeah. It depends on the engine. I think like Unreal Engine, this may have changed. I know back in like 3 and 4, I want to say it was majority C++. Could be mistaken. I want to say that was the main kind of language they used for the programming aspects of like, throughout the engine and whatnot. Yeah, but outside of that, I mean, like if you're just working on like a Roblox game, or you're working on like, okay, so like Minecraft's all Java, right? So if you're trying to like develop something in Minecraft, you're working with Java.
Isn't Java gone now?
That's
the thing.
I don't think it's as relevant as it once was.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
It's what I learned in college,
mostly,
but I don't know if it's as widely used as it once was. If anything, probably C# is like king for most like development stuff.
Noticed, yeah.
But C# is
Python too, and
a variation
whatever.
of Java, pretty much. Like it's very close to Java and the kind of the syntax and everything. But yeah, anyways, what I was saying is like if you're building something like Roblox, or I think maybe even like some of the Fortnite like creative stuff, like if you're doing games of that, it also uses it. But there's a programming language called Lua. And I think there's maybe even GTA mods, if I'm not mistaken, that are made in Lua.
Lula.
I think it's Lua. I think.
Oh, Lua.
Lua.
They said Lula.
Yeah. No, Lua.
Okay.
Yeah, Lua. That's a very commonly used language amongst like a lot, like I was saying, like Roblox, a lot of mods and stuff like that utilize Lua. Lua is, I haven't seen too much of it. From what I've seen, it's kind of a more simplistic programming language. It's not as like, it's not as difficult to pick up as something like a C++, which is, I mean, it's C++. It's not bad, but like there's a lot. You have to really know what you're doing in order to not like mess things up.
That's what I understood. But I think what I was trying to make is like, everybody has a different process of which they do things. Yeah. And usually it's kind of behind closed doors on the way to do it the best.
Yeah, it's like, it's closed source, not really. Yeah.
I've seen the same exact thing with when I'm doing like engineering stuff and I'm doing 3D modeling. There are very particular ways in which you can do things, and there's only like a handful of softwares that can actually do it, and it's an industry standard to use those software, so it's like insanely overpriced. And the products aren't necessarily finished. They just have the monopoly on the market that if you're a successful business at a certain size, you have to use those programs. Because it's the most compatible. It's like the industry standard. You have to do it that way. And even from there, it's like I work mostly with like HVAC, and they're trying to make more and more building automated systems integrated with like smart clouds and tech and like cybersecurity and all this kind of stuff. So they're all like working together so that they function correctly. But if you have different manufacturers with different like software languages or like computations and brain power of the equipment, and if they don't communicate with each other effectively, nothing will work. So there have been open source programs and open source languages that have basically taken all the different ones and they've like combined them together as like a Frankenstein's monster so that they all work properly. I think this reminds me, what they're trying to do, the Believer company reminds me of what the HVAC industry is trying to do, where they're trying to create an open source like network so that they can all work together as a tool to make everybody's life easier and better and cheaper. And I think it needs to happen because this is a really new industry. Like it's like anything cloud-based is very new, and video games are incredibly new. I could see more and more of these changes coming.
I mean, I think, a lot of the processes of like testing and the pipelines and all that, this could probably simplify that, make it, more uniform. I think, I mean, from like a, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure the full details of it, but I don't know if it's like hosting. It's obviously like, I guess, hosting a build of some sort of kind of what's out there. So it's, just letting kind of, making it more easier to, deal with that kind of, work and structure, which I think could be helpful. I mean, I think it's interesting too that this company's just like, we have this tool that we're writing, but like we want to make it open source. And we want to give it to anyone that makes games and use it in their own way, kind of thing. Use it for apply to their use case.
Very true.
Which I think is which I think is awesome. I mean, it's cool to see stuff like this and we're just doing different things, trying to help out. I mean, I think it's true too. I mean, obviously, what he was saying in the article, if you make development fun, it'll show in the end product kind of thing. If you're if you're
Yes.
having fun doing it, like it's going to carry through, which I think is true. So, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I think that's
very noble.
100%. It's the right mindset to have. I mean, we talk about it multiple times. You're creating art. You should enjoy it.
Yeah,
Have fun. So
it's true.
I think it's all a good idea. I'm curious to see how far it can go and how many people or companies are willing to adopt it and willing to let go of their own proprietary tools, you know?
Yeah, that's the real question is like whether or not people will adopt it. But
Yeah, if you don't adopt it, then it's dead on arrival, really.
yeah, it's kind of just like, well, at least it works for our studio. I guess they still have
Yeah,
something
that's true.
at the end of the day.
That's
So
very true.
it's like whatever. At the end of the day, I feel like it's kind of just no harm, no foul. I mean, if they only have a couple people working on it, they want to get it out, and they're willing to just be like, hey, here's what we use and it works well for us. But we think
Yeah.
that a lot of studios could benefit from it. There's kind of nothing but good that can come out of that. I feel like,
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it makes sense.
yeah, I think it certainly does.